In this video, I'm going to show you how to get coaching and consulting clients with no social media, no following, nobody on an email list, and without posting anything anywhere. My name is Jacob Ratliff. I'm a professional book coach, and I've helped dozens of coaches, experts, and founders write books that build their credibility and help them attract new clients. Here's the standard advice. You need an audience, pick a platform, post consistently, build a following, and eventually enough people know who you are that some of them hire you. That's not wrong. It works. It also takes years. It only works while you keep feeding it, and it asks a 55-year-old expert with a full client load to become a content creator and a marketer, which is a completely different job that most of them will quietly hate. So here's what I'd actually do instead, and it's the whole video. You don't need to build an audience. There's already one assembled. It's enormous. And unlike every social platform, the people in it are not scrolling. They're searching for the exact problem you solve. With a credit card already on file, that's Amazon. And a book is how you show up in it. I have a client, Mark, who spent years getting work almost entirely through referrals. Now people reach out and tell him they found his book online. Nobody introduced them. He didn't post anything that week. There was no funnel, and that's the mechanism. And I want to be precise about why it works, because most people hear book and think about credibility. Credibility is the smaller half. Distribution is the point. 7 things make this work, and they're all decided before you write a word, which is the part almost nobody tells you. Number 1, nobody there is searching for you. They're searching for their problem. This is the entire unlock if you have no following, and it's the thing that makes Amazon different from every platform you've been told to build on. On social, discovery runs through people. Somebody has to already know your name, or an algorithm has to decide to show you to them. With no audience, you have neither, which is why starting from zero on a platform is genuinely hard. On Amazon, nobody types a name. They type the thing that's wrong: how to price consulting work, how to lead a team you inherited, how to stop trading hours for money. Your name is worth nothing in that search box, and it does not need to be, which means the person with no following and the person with 50,000 followers show up on more or less the same footing. Now, this isn't magic, and there's real competition inside those searches. It's not nobody versus you, but it is the only place I know of where being unknown isn't a disadvantage. And if you've been avoiding building an audience, that's the door. Number 2, they're already in a buying posture. This changes what the first transaction is, and it's a much bigger deal than it sounds. Somebody on Instagram is not shopping. They're being interrupted, and everything you post is an interruption they didn't ask for. That's why converting attention into money there takes so long. Somebody on Amazon has opened the site for one reason. They are looking to spend money to solve something. The credit card is already saved. So your first transaction with a total stranger is $15, not a discovery call. They don't have to trust you with an hour of their time or a payment plan. They have to trust you with about the price of lunch. And what they get for it is 4 hours of you making your case in the order you chose uninterrupted. I'm not suggesting the book money matters. For most people, it's a rounding error. But the alternative is asking a stranger to go from never having heard of you to a paid engagement in one step, which is the actual reason cold outreach feels the way it does. Number 3, it doesn't reset every morning. If you've looked at the content treadmill and thought, no thanks, this is the reason your instinct was reasonable. Everything on a platform is rented. You start at 0 every day and feed it again, and the day you stop feeding it is the day it stops. Miss 3 weeks, and you're rebuilding. A book just sits there. It's findable at 2 in the morning on a Sunday in a year you've forgotten you wrote it. Somebody finds it in year 3, and it works exactly as well as it did in week 1, and it cost you nothing that day. I do use these platforms, and there's a version where you do both. But if everything you build is rented, you can spend 5 years renting attention and own nothing at the end of it, and you'll have no idea which of those years actually produced anything. Number 4, you have to be the best book for somebody specific, not a decent book for everybody. Here's where most of them fail, and the failure happens before a word is written. The average self-published book sells fewer than 100 copies, ever, almost always because it was written for a general audience, which means it is nobody's obvious first choice for anything. The way this works is not that you write a broadly good book about leadership. It's that you become the obvious answer for a much narrower person. A leadership book for people who got promoted into managing their former peers is a different object entirely, and somebody typing that exact situation into a search box finds it. Narrow is not a smaller opportunity. Narrow is how you get found at all. I'm not saying nobody outside that group will read it. They will, and they'll benefit. Write for everybody, and you get the same outcome as everybody. A book that's fine, that nobody searches for, and that sells to your immediate family. Number 5, the first pages do the selling, and you don't get to explain them. This is the one people are most surprised by, and it's a writing problem, not a marketing one. Somebody finds your book, and before they buy it, they read the opening. Amazon shows them a preview, and you are not in the room. There's no call, no bio, no reassurance, just the first pages on their own, which means your opening is your sales page. And every one of those people is deciding on the strength of writing you probably drafted on a Tuesday and never went back to. Most business books open with a definition or a summary of what the chapter will cover. That is not an opening. It's a table of contents entry, and it's where the reader closes the preview. I'd give the first chapter real time more than any other, and in revision, I'd give it a whole session on its own. Get it wrong, and you can do everything else right, get found, get the click, and lose them on page 1 without ever knowing it happened. Number 6, they contact you, and that makes them a fundamentally different person to talk to. This is the one that changes what your working week actually feels like, and it's the reason I'd take 10 of these over 100 cold leads. Think about what somebody has done before they email you. They found the book on their own. They read the opening and decided to buy it. Then they gave you 4 hours of their evening, agreed with enough of it to keep going, and at the end of all that, they chose to contact a stranger. There is almost no filter in business that strong. Compare it to somebody who downloaded a PDF, which costs 30 seconds and an email address they may not check. So by the time they reach you, 3 things are already settled. They know how you think because they've had 4 hours of it. They know how you work because you told them. And they've decided they want the person who wrote that, specifically, rather than somebody cheaper who does something similar. My own sales calls went from about 50 minutes to 20 for exactly that reason. The half of the call where I explained myself had already happened on their time without me in the room. And there's a second filter running that you never see. The people who read it and decide you're not for them simply don't get in touch. You don't have to disqualify them. You don't have to sit through the call. They just quietly never happen. I'm not claiming every one of them converts. Some are curious and some can't afford you. Without it, you're living the version most people are, which is spending your best hours each week persuading people who never had any particular reason to choose you. Number 7, none of it produces a client unless somebody finishes it. This is the condition sitting underneath all 6 of the others. And it's the one I'd want you to leave with. Everything I've described stops at the last page they read. Somebody who abandons your book in chapter 2 doesn't recommend it, doesn't remember your name, and certainly doesn't email you. Mark's clients reached out because they finished it. Every outcome in this video required somebody to get to the end. That only works if the book is worth somebody's evening, which is a much higher standard than getting it published, and a completely different one from getting it found. So that's the case. Now the resistance, because I promised it, and because it's the actual obstacle. When I say this, most people say some version of yes, but that takes months, and it does. But that's not the resistance. The resistance is that it feels indirect. Posting feels like doing something. You can see the likes the same afternoon. Writing a book for 4 months for strangers you'll never meet who'll find it a year from now feels like doing nothing. I'd get that backwards for about 3 years. Before I wrote Client Attractor, I'd started to believe the problem was that nobody wanted to work with me. That wasn't it. Nobody knew about me, and I hadn't decided what to tell them. Those two feel identical from the inside, and they are completely different problems. One of them you solve by working harder for years. The other one you solve by deciding. And that's the part I'd actually start with this week, because every one of the 7 things I just described is a decision, not a writing task. Who it's for, what it argues, what makes it the obvious answer for one specific person, what the first chapter is supposed to do. Those decisions are also the reason most books never get written. It isn't discipline and it isn't time. Somebody sits down to write chapter 1, having never settled who they're writing for, stalls 400 words in, and calls it writer's block. It isn't writer's block. It's an unmade decision showing up as a blank page. So I built the thing I wish every client had walked in already holding. It's called the 1-Hour Book Blueprint, and the link is directly below this video. It's a 5-phase system, and you finish it in an hour. Not an hour a day for a month. 1 hour, once. At the end of it, you're holding a single page with your reader on it. The promise you're making that reader, the argument the whole book runs on, and the chapter map that falls out of those 3. Every phase produces something. You don't leave a phase with notes, you leave it with a decision written down. That page is the clearest difference I've seen between the authors who finish and the authors who don't. Same intelligence, same expertise, same amount of time. One group decided first. It's $27. Clients have paid me many multiples of that for a single hour of working through exactly these questions in exactly this order. This is that hour, and you can take it tonight. So this is what I'd do. Go to 1hourbookblueprint.com or click the link below this video and give it the next 60 minutes. Even if you do nothing else with anything I've said today, you'll go to bed knowing precisely what your book is, who it's for, and what's in it. Almost nobody who wants to write a book ever gets that far, and most of them never will. You can be past it before the end of the night. You don't need a following. You need to be findable by the people who are already looking and to be worth their evening when they find you. So go and decide what your book is. Everything else in this video depends on it.